Welcome once again to Population, Genetics and Evolution, Unit 4, Session 2. Jean-Baptiste Lamarck, early 1800s, Theory of Transmutation of Species. By the end of this session, you should be able to understand the theory of transmutation of species and discuss the contribution of Jean-Baptiste Lamarck to the theory of transmutation of species. Theory of transmutation. Lamarck was a strong advocate of evolution and proposed that the possible mechanisms of evolutionary change were by artificial selection. He suggested that vestigial structures are unused structures that have lost their form due to lack of use. Example is the coccyx, the human tailbone. Lamarck was a strong advocate of evolution and proposed that the possible mechanisms of evolutionary change were by artificial selection. He also suggested that vestigial structures are unused structures that have lost their form due to lack of use. Example, the coccyx in the human tailbone. In Lamarck's proposal of inheritance of acquired characters, a change in the environment will cause a change in physiological needs of organisms, and this will lead to change in behavior, compelling organisms to use or disuse of structures. According to this mechanism, as structures are used or disused, they become heritable change in trait. These changes in traits are passed on from one generation to the other. Changes in species are continuous, and gradual change and species adaptation are driven by physiological needs in response to environment to progress toward increasing complexity and perfection. In his theory of transmutation of species, extinct species weren't extinct but had evolved into new species. In a giraffe stretched its neck, if a giraffe stretched its neck for leaves, for example, a nervous fluid would flow into its neck and make it longer. Its offspring would inherit the longer neck, and continued stretching would make it longer, still over several generations. Meanwhile, organs that organisms stopped using would shrink. One interesting outcome of Lamarck's theory by recent human societies is the use and disuse of the reproductive organs. One school of thought has it that if a person disuses the reproductive organ for copulation, then that organ eventually loses function and size. The other school of thought of the opinion that it has never happened in any human generation that a person disuses the reproductive organ and eventually loses its function and size without any cause of disease or injury or otherwise. Irrespective of your view on this philosophy, have at the back of your mind that human lifespan does not guarantee such marked change, and that the reproductive organs have other functions, including renal functions. So, in review, Lamarck proposed that the possible mechanisms of evolutionary change were by artificial selection. He suggested that vestigial structures are unused structures that have lost their form due to lack of use. In Lamarck's proposal of inheritance of acquired characters, change in the environment will cause a change in physiological needs of organisms, thereby leading to change in behavior, compelling organisms to use or disuse structures.